On April 1st, one interview kind of, I want to say shocked the wrestling world, but it's definitely got a lot of people talking. Is that fair, Mr. Isaacs?
Yeah, I would say so. As a society in general, we kind of thrive on drama. That's kind of how we are as a species. So when stuff like this comes out, and it's a little scandalous, and there's some he said, she said kind of stuff. It gets people talking, and this is one of those things.
Absolutely. So we're talking a lot about obviously AEW, a lot of behind the scenes stuff. I will be honest, this is going to be as honest as we can. We're not going to bullshit. Let's be honest.
Oh, I don't sugarcoat anything. You know that. And I know you're not either. It's going to be a very frank discussion of these issues and what we think about them. I'm excited to delve into it. It's going to be a good conversation.
Of course, but as always, intern, roll the intro. And welcome to episode 149 of the Magic of Wrestling podcast. I am, of course, one half of the host, Liam Wakeland.
I'm the American half of the equation. I am the Southern American man here, opposite the fine British gentleman, the gentle giant himself on the other end. I'm the effing expert, Mr. Isaacs. How are we today?
I am very, very well. Do you know what? It's been one of those, I will be honest, it's been a really draining week. I mean, after I recorded around the effing galaxy, as soon as I hit my pillar, I was out. I was just absolute gone. I don't know what the hell happened this week.
Yeah, I mean, for me in the Isaacs household here, it's been a shitty couple of weeks. Myself and my daughter had a stomach bug last week. My son had the same stomach bug this week.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not been a very pleasant couple of weeks around here, but I'm hoping for a better week next week.
Yes, I imagine you've not done any martial arts stuff.
No, unfortunately, I've been sidelined from jiu-jitsu for this week and last week, but next week I plan on hitting the mats pretty hard, and I'm sure I'll be plenty sore for it. My bones will be like, "What the hell are you doing, man?"
No, I mean, yeah, not much really. Like I say, it's like I said, it's just been a really busy week. But I mean, let's be honest, the most talked about thing is obviously AEW at the moment. But I want to just quickly talk about obviously WrestleMania night 1 and night 2. What do we think? Just to have a little discussion before we get into his main topic.
I thought WrestleMania overall was really good. I mean, I liked it. It was probably one of the best manias that I've seen in recent history, if I'm being honest. I mean, the main events were fantastic. I mean, they told a great story. I was very surprised that Dave Meltzer gave such a high review of some of the matches. He's typically very anti WWE in his reviews, but I enjoyed it, man. I thought it was good. The story, as cliche as that became, was a lot of fun, and it unfolded very well. And I thought that the matches went as they should. And I really, really enjoyed Mania. What are your thoughts?
I mean, yeah, there was some really obviously good matches. I've actually got the ratings here, obviously in the description. Do you want to see night 1 or night 2 star ratings?
Yeah, sure.
Let's have a look at night 1 then. So, I mean, what do you reckon? Some high scores there for night 1? No, it's night 2. Sorry, I do apologize.
Night 2. Yeah. Do you want to put 1 up there and then we'll talk about 2?
There we go. That's night 1.
Yeah.
It's because I've renamed it completely opposite. But yeah, sorry, there's night 1. Let's try that again.
I think these ratings are fair. I mean, I wouldn't have rated Rhea and Becky that high personally, but that's just me. The rest of these I think is pretty fair. I think Bloodline, Cody and Seth was probably 4. Sammy and Gunther was probably 4.5. I mean, Jimmy and Jay was an awful match. So I'm okay with that. I probably would have gave that a 1 star, but 0.75 I guess is pretty fair.
Yeah, absolutely. And we mentioned that somebody's going to be in the comments and is actually backstage? Shall we bring this guy on? We know he's going to be here.
Let's go ahead.
We know who it is. What's going on, Haney?
Hello!
That's a salty son of a bitch if I've ever seen one. How are you today, sir?
Me? I am wonderful. Why would I be salty?
Because it's you.
Because in Scotland, apparently they produce a lot of salt. I
They
guess.
do, yeah.
Danny, how are we?
Just a lot of whingers. Sorry.
How are we? We all right?
I'm good, thanks yourselves.
Not too bad, not too bad. Just usual stuff. How's your week been?
It's been an odd one. I've been feeling quite run down. What was it? But what was it? I had a bug a couple of weeks ago, and then I think what was it? Hay fever season started as well, so that sort of wiped me a little bit, you know. And then
Was it a
WrestleMania.
stomach bug, Haney? Is that what it was?
There, a couple of weeks ago, yes.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. See, the stomach bug, it's like infecting the entire planet. Like
Yeah.
it's got us here in Kentucky. It's got poor Haney in Scotland. Like, Liam, you better like duck and cover, man.
Yeah.
I've already got
like,
it.
It's like the Wuhan flu, only the Wuhan flu I get.
Oh dear. Have we watched much wrestling this week then, Annie?
Yeah, watched most of it. Watched obviously WrestleMania Raw. What was it? Watched the ROH show. Seen obviously the stuff during the week with AEW. What was it? Not fully seen SmackDown yet from last night, or what was it? Some of the other stuff that's been going on. But yeah, been watching plenty of it.
Awesome.
been
So,
good.
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I'm just saying it's been good.
Absolutely. So we're just talking about obviously the WrestleMania Dave Meltzer star ratings. Is any what caught your eye there?
Just what was it? The fact that Meltzer's rating, you know, he still can't give the WWE that big 5-star. It was like that. The main event was like 4 points, four stars and 3.58 of a 79th of a 28.
That's a Canada Dry score.
Yeah, it's like a. It's like 4.5 stars and a ball here.
he can't bring himself to give any WWE match 5 stars.
No,
he just can't do
no.
it. Like 4 is usually the most he'll give.
So obviously, I've got a follow-up question for that then. So based on WrestleMania just gone, was there a match there which was worthy of the 4-star? And I'm talking from your guys' perspective.
For me, the absolute main event, Cody versus Roman, I think that was a 5-star match. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of what match was, what was it? It was overbooked, but it was just sheer. It was just brilliant. Everything from it, from the entrances to the match to what kicking off, to I mean, let's talk about the MVP of the whole WrestleMania, Samantha Irvine. I mean, absolutely amazing. The emotion that women put into that at the end as well was just added to everything, you know.
I think that was really cool. Yeah, like her breaking up and being emotional at the very end, like that. It added to it. It really did. It added to the scene of everybody being happy over Cody winning.
Yeah, and supposedly they sent her out not knowing the results either, so she is in complete sort of surprise, you know. So, what was it? It was just great. What was it? It's hard for me because obviously things are never perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect wrestling match.
No.
You know, what was it? When you give it that sort of 5 stars, then that really should be the match that you sort of aim for. You know, I think. I know a lot of people would disagree, but for me, the greatest WrestleMania match of all time is The Rock Hogan, just because of everything, all the elements about it, the atmosphere. The match wasn't great; it was just basic stuff, you know. It was just down to the storytelling and the atmosphere and the emotion of the match. You know, watching that was just phenomenal.
It's up there for sure. Yeah.
And this match had that similar sort of feel, you know.
The only saltiest thing I've got with the actual main event is it cost me 2 t-shirts.
Yeah. Liam, so you went against Cody here?
Yeah.
I just, for some bizarre reason in my own head, I thought with the way that it all transpired last year, I just didn't see him finishing the story. But the problem was, as we got closer to this WrestleMania, I'm like, I'm 2 shirts down. So I remember
you're gonna have to start consulting me about these picks, Liam. I would have talked you out of it.
I don't think he's. What was it? You know, Liam, I agreed with you. I was on the chat. You know, Cody wasn't meant to win that WrestleMania. He wasn't even meant to be in that main event. So what was it? I was the same. I thought, what was it? And as it got closer, I thought, right, okay, they're going to do it. They're going to do it. But
the issue I've got with this as well is, for me, when what pisses me off, I don't mean to cut you off there, Haney, but this for me has not been Cody versus Roman. This is essentially been Cody versus The Rock. Let's be honest, for me, and this has kind of took it away from me a little bit. Obviously, Rock beat him up in the car park. We saw that. It's been obviously Cody and The Rock, and obviously the Hall of Fame thing. The list is endless. It was Rock who pinned him night one, and even like night after Raw, it's like, oh my god, really? And for me, it's just like it takes it away. Just for me personally, I'm sure other people might disagree.
I think, I sort of, I sort of get that. You know, it became about The Rock more than anything. I think, what was it? You're sort of right in the sense that Roman and Seth and all that, they were all just there for the ride. You know, it was the Rock's show. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, but it is what it is. You know, I mean, you can't sort of argue with the numbers they've been getting with The Rock. I'll be interested next week with not, you know, plummeting. You know,
I have no doubt in my mind that The Rock was the MVP of WrestleMania season.
Yeah, I'm going to start a campaign online. I'm going to start calling him a pussy online. The Rock. Just to make, I'm just going to like, bet you don't come to Clash of the Castles, you big pussy. You know?
Try to make them show up.
But now the interesting thing is now, despite all WrestleMania, despite all the buzz around that, a certain interview kind of like snuck through in between all that. And Mr. Isaacs, of course, I'm talking about the infamous 1 hour and 50 minutes CM Punk interview. MMA Hour, Awani. I mean, did you want us to watch the whole thing, basically?
I did. I watched the entire interview. Yeah. You know, Ariel Helwani, I know AEW fans hate him because he dared to ask Tony Khan questions and they thought that was horrible. But yeah. But he's a damn good interviewer. He is. And like he has a way, like, I don't want to say like he's as good or anything, but it's like kind of Howard Stern-esque how he can kind of get dirt out of people by just casually just bringing it out of them. And that's what he did here with Punk. And he kind of masterfully wove a series of questions here, and Punk, you know, bought it hook, line, and sinker, and kind of told his perspective of the whole story here. It was a fascinating interview, and I would recommend anybody check out the whole almost 2 hours of it because it was really good.
Yeah. And you sort of fall into the sort of what was it, applying short clips, missing the whole context of the interview as well. It wasn't like an hour and 50 minutes of Punk just bitching about AEW and
no.
And that's the misconception that's been sort of portrayed, you know. And what was it? Somebody impartial go watch the. If you're impartial, go watch the Tony Khan interview. It's sort of embarrassing because, you know, he's not answering any questions. He's giving the whole like no comment sort of thing the whole through. And then what was it when they bring up some stuff that he had done? He was like, yeah, you did this guy dirty, didn't you? And he was like, oh yeah, that was great, wasn't it? Sort of thing, you know. And it was like, well, like, you know, it's difficult. Yeah, but was it? I mean, it's well known now when you go into the AEW media scrums. Basically, your questions are vetted, and if you want to ask anything sort of challenging, it doesn't get asked. You know, so it sort of defeats the sort of. I prefer the way they do it in Japan. That's not to say the WWE media one isn't the same. I think they're probably vetted the questions as well. You know, but what was it called? What was it? When you're presenting something like that, you know, just answer the questions. Don't comment people, or have at least have a more practical answer.
I think the whole idea of the media scrum's stupid for WWE or AEW. I mean, this is not a shoot sporting event. I mean, this is a work. I mean, can you imagine like I always kind of draw parallels to this. Could you imagine like if like after The Walking Dead aired, like the creator and everybody was like sitting in front of a bunch of like entertainment journalists who were like grilling them about their decisions about what they did with certain characters. Like that's ludicrous to think about. You know, but for some reason, this is like an acceptable thing in wrestling. I don't like the media scrum. I think they should get rid of it. I think it's stupid, but you know,
it's just the whole show. I don't know how Tony does it. I mean, what was it? People have got their theories, but if you think about it, that AEW pay-per-view finishes at 11 o'clock. Was it PM stateside, right? The media scrum starts straight away. There's usually about an hour and 30 minutes of the wrestler's been out there answering questions, and Tony's there for another hour and 20 minutes answering questions himself afterwards. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning before it finishes.
I've got a good idea for an April Fool's episode. I might have to do to Liam next year, and it's going to be like anytime Liam asks me a question, I'm just going to be like, Liam, I really appreciate that question, thank you, but I have no comment. And just respond to that literally everything for an entire episode.
Dear. So a couple of the talking points from obviously this interview was, of course, the AEW stuff. And Mr. Isaacs, even though he's obviously said Tony Khan's a great guy, he's basically said he's not a good boss, to be honest.
You know, here's my thing about AEW, and I know I've mentioned this before, but you know, it warrants mentioning it again. I think Tony is a very smart man. Mm-hmm. I think he's intellectually, I think he's a very bright guy. I think that he does have some business acumen that he has gotten from his father and his success over the years. But I don't think he's great at handling like personnel kind of issues. So here's what I think Tony should do. And I've thought this for a long time. Tony should be the guy who does the business dealings. Mm-hmm. Tony should be the guy who deals with the television networks, the venues, all that kind of stuff. Tony, I think, is probably pretty good at doing those things. But he should hire somebody else to run the actual wrestling part of the business. Kind of like how WWE is structured, with Nick Khan handling all the corporate business and Triple H handles all the wrestling stuff you see on screen. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think that Tony Khan needs a Triple H type figure for AEW.
I think the challenge with that though is right at the beginning. He says we're not going to do it. We're going to be a team, you know. What was it? We're not going to do the WWE thing, you know. So it's. I mean, has he dug a hole for himself? But certainly, I mean, he appears to be a lovely guy. I mean, what people don't realize about Tony is our stories going way back. I mean, even like long before like AEW or the All In stuff, he used to go be backstage at WWE shows, and he used to bring gifts and that for the wrestlers and that as well. You know, he is just a genuinely nice guy. I know a lot about your sort of sports analytic stuff because I'm a data analyst myself. So I know he is a very clever man. Anybody that comes out and says Tony Khan is A, stupid, and B, handed everything he's got on a plate, that I sort of I would sort of challenge anybody to do what that man does. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's over here on a Saturday and a Sunday for Fulham. He's got the Jaguars going. He's got AEW getting booked. He's got other sort of business interests as well. That guy hasn't been handed a thing. Yeah, his father gave him some money, but everything he's got, he's worked for, and he does it himself. You know,
and I absolutely agree with that. Yeah, I think Tony Khan works his ass off. And I mean, there was one time in particular that I think it was Wrestle Dream, the pay-per-view. He was literally in the UK watching Fulham earlier that day, and then flew all the way to the West Coast of the United States to attend Wrestle Dream later that evening. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, it needs help, but it's sometimes people can be their own worst enemy. It's easy to say, I'll just do it just now and I'll get round to sorting somebody out later down the line, but it never happens, you know, because he's just constantly sort of going. From that standpoint, I think what was it? Even just the whole sort of narrative online as well about Tony with the nepotism and things like that. Listen, if it wasn't for nepotism, we wouldn't have had Vince McMahon. Was it creating the WWF? We wouldn't have had The Rock. You know, we wouldn't have had Cody and Dusty. All these things. I mean, even going back to the Crockett's and things like that, and the Von Erichs.
Nepotism is just it's just a fact of life. Like, I'm sorry, especially in a capitalist society, when you have wealth and you have assets that you then pass on to your children. Yeah. That's just a fact of life, man. I mean, you can see that in any business in the world.
It's like, and you know yourself, with friends and family. I mean, The Rock gets a little bit of as well online because he'll go out and he'll take a car and he'll drop it off at one of his cousins or buy his sister-in-law a house and all that for the family.
He's got to make sure the camera's there too, though.
Yeah, you know,
like it's got to go up on his Instagram within 10 seconds.
But at the end of the day, yeah, he's self-promoting. But at the end of the day, if we were in that position, we would probably do the same thing for our families, you know, because that's what good people do, you know. What was it called? So, yeah, but yeah, I think he does need help. But I just wanted to expand on some of the narrative that's out there that Tony's been handed things just because his father's got money. That didn't happen over. He didn't just go into Warner Brothers and say, "Okay, I want a TV deal." That, you know, that just doesn't happen, you know.
No, he had contacts and he negotiated with people. That's what I'm saying. I think Tony Khan's brilliant at the business side of this, but he's just got to get somebody to help him with the actual wrestling side of things.
And that kind of leads me obviously into my point is, and I mean, this is the way I see it: is Tony Khan. Why am I saying it like that? Jesus, I'm surprised me saying that. Tony Khan is obviously not a wrestling booker. Let's be honest; he's a wrestling fan.
Yeah,
he's a really good wrestling fan, and I'm sure the people out there who's got the experience. I'm talking people like Eric Bischoff. Do you know what I mean? Them who's obviously been in that predicament will tell you, being a wrestling fan and being a wrestling booker is two different types of things. Let's be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, here's the thing: most people that are wrestling bookers are either former wrestlers themselves or they at least attended some kind of wrestling school, because you have to be kind of taught the ins and outs and the philosophy and, you know, the logic behind old school booking. I mean, it's not something where it's like you're a fan and you write fan fiction so you can write a wrestling show. I mean, that's some Vince Russo bullshit. Like, you need somebody that like really knows and understands what to do in the ring, someone who's actually been in the ring and knows what to do.
Sometimes you can be too smart with it though, and an instance of that happened on Monday with The Rock and Cody. Now everybody was going on about the sequence where what was it? They were swapping the belts, and they were and they were going. Oh, the crowd started chanting, "This is awkward." But that's because the crowd didn't understand it. It transpires. It's tied to a bit of business they did way back when The Rock was back in 2012, 2013, and The Rock won the title, and Cody came out and asked The Rock if he could touch it, and The Rock bottomed it, and that actually happened on Raw. I completely forgot about it. It was somebody that pointed it out to me, you know. So sometimes you can be too clever.
I didn't even know that either. Like, I don't have any remembrance of that.
I didn't recall it, but I just thought that's, I mean, little things like that, you know, or what was it, elements of wrestling, what was it, storytelling with Roman Reigns. He had a choice of hitting Cody with the belt, the chair, or he could have finally get Seth back after what he did to him in the Shield, and he chose to get that last bit of revenge, you know. What was it, and Seth, you know, that's good storytelling. That's something that Tony hasn't got, because he hasn't got that longevity in the business. You know, it might come, but at least have people there to support you. I mean, I know he's not in good health, sadly, but he's got people like Malenko, Jerry Lynn's there. You know, what was it, Jake the Snake's there, Sting. They don't need to feed off these guys. You know, as much as I sort of criticise them. Maybe not listen to Chris Jericho. Actually, I'll change that one, because some of the stuff he comes up with is just ridiculous. He's a bit of a Russo guy, Jericho, and he also said that Black Sabbath is overrated. So
Ouch.
I saw that quote and I was like, surely to God, like, was that a fake quote? That couldn't be real. Like, there's no way.
You know, but yeah. So screw Jericho. But there's lots of good guys there. Dustin. I mean, even Mark Henry, Big Show. You know, there's lots
Yeah,
of.
what are
There's
these
lots of,
guys doing? Like, they've got to be doing something backstage, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm.
See, I don't. I mean, fortunately, I think out of that lot, Christian's the one that sort of managed to achieve something out of it. I think, what was it? When the WWE were doing their releases in the contract, Tony's did a sort of like not a very clever thing, a sort of rookie mistake to say, "Oh, these guys are big names. Let's sign them up straight away," and not actually have, you know. I mean, Big Show signed and he had to go and get surgery. I mean, he was due to get surgery on his knees, you know. He's not in a good way. I mean, I'm sure he's a great ambassador, but he probably doesn't travel well because of his size.
Yeah.
You know.
So I don't mean to obviously move along because we've obviously got loads to
sorry.
talk about. So the other talking point from obviously this big Punk interview was, of course, the All-In incident. Now we've heard rumors for quite a few months what's happened and stuff. So Mr. Isaacs, when he mentioned all this the All-In incident, what did you think?
You know, he told his side, his perspective of what happened, which ironically enough, when you watch the video, it kind of is what happened. Yeah. I mean, he just kind of explained kind of what the reports indicated that, you know, he had a backstage altercation with Jack Perry and, you know, got him in a little bit of a guillotine choke and it was broken up immediately after. And, you know, when we put out the video, I know we haven't got to that part yet, but when we see the video, that's basically all it was. They talked, there was a shove, there was a guillotine choke, it was split up, and that was the end of it. I mean, this wasn't like some Pier 6 brawl and there was no blood and like, you know, nobody was getting killed. Like it just, I think it was much ado about nothing, but apparently Punk explaining his side of this kind of opened up this can of worms where, you know, the need to retaliate was implied, and here we are. That's why we're here discussing this today.
Yeah, and the thing is with this, like the problem was when obviously Punk obviously spoke about what happened, everyone were talking about, well, I want to see why Tony Khan feared for his life. They were like, I don't give a crap about this incident. I want to talk about this one. What the hell, Mr. Isaacs?
Yeah. Look, you know, Tony is a privileged guy. You know, I'm not saying this in a negative way. I'm just being real here. Tony's a privileged guy who's probably never seen people in a fight before. Yeah. Like probably it's all very likely that he has literally never seen a fight before, like a genuine fight, not like a professional fight on television. So when something like this happens in front of him, he freaks out. He's like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, I've never seen anything like that. I've never seen human beings act like this in front of me before. So to the rest of us, it's like, dude, you feared for your life because somebody was like shouting and they one of them shoved the other one. That made you fear for your life. I mean, it's ridiculous from our perspective, but I kind of understand from someone like Tony Khan's perspective why he would kind of grossly overreact to something like that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Annie, what's your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, I can't. It's pretty much similar. You can't really sort of. What was it? Disagree with that. The only other thing I took from the video was how chilled was Hook. He just stood there and like, and then he watched and he was like, "Yeah, I probably should put my belt down and try and help out." But that time, it was what you know, which was quite funny, you know. But I mean, people were asking where Tony was. It was like he's right there. He's right at the three screens. He's sitting in the middle, you know.
Yeah. Like he was kind of out of the view of the camera, but they had. Okay, so here's a visual for anybody who hasn't seen it. You know, they're standing around backstage. You see CM Punk come walk up to Jack Perry. They exchange some words. After exchanging words for about a minute or so, Punk shoves Jack Perry and then lunges at him, and it looks like he gets him in a guillotine choke, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu move. it's quickly broken up by Samoa Joe, Hook,
Yeah.
Chris Hero, and there was somebody else there. I can't really tell who it was. And there were 3 monitors sitting right there. This is kind of like their gorilla position. And behind the 3 monitors, it's kind of cut off. The camera angle is, but that's where Tony Khan sits.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
No, I don't know if you know this, but was it AEW could be in a lot of trouble with regards to this CCTV footage.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's something you're going to cover.
Sorry, I've got the information on that. We'll obviously talk about that later
Yeah,
on.
sorry, I don't want to jump the gun. Sorry.
Dear. Yeah, sorry, I'm just trying.
Shut up, Penny.
He's a very excited Scottishman today. I like it.
Yeah, I've got the ins and outs of that. We'll obviously discuss that at the end. But in the lights of obviously this, we're thinking, okay, what's going to happen now? We saw an AEW with Adam Copeland's promo, but in the middle of obviously WrestleMania, AEW Collision was happening, which I didn't even know, by the way. And a little graphic came on the page, which was this. The Young Bucks present backstage footage from All In, and we'll discuss for the first time. Haney, I'll start with you on this one. Why?
The only thing I can think of why is why not, because there's no actual real justification or reasoning behind what they show in this footage. It was a dumb idea. It was absolutely why not?
Mr. Isaacs, can you elaborate on that one?
Yeah, so I kind of discussed this a little bit on Dynamite After Dark, which I made an appearance on this past Wednesday for anyone who didn't check it out. But I think it's kind of twofold here. I think the primary goal of it was I think Tony Khan thought this was going to expose and embarrass CM Punk in some way. Because again, he clearly thought this was a bigger deal than a lot of other people did. So I think he thought that this was going to embarrass him and was going to make him look bad and was going to make it seem that, you know, he was completely in the wrong. AEW was completely in the right. And what he said in Ariel's interview was bullshit. I think that was the primary goal of showing this. I think the secondary goal of showing this, and this one I can kind of somewhat get on board with, was to generate heat for this Bucks FTR match. Because I think that, you know, kind of drawing it into kayfabe and making it like FTR might have had something to do with this. I actually thought that was kind of a cool move. Like, I don't think I would have shown the video, but I would have like had them cut a promo saying that they thought that FTR might have been behind this and whatever. I thought that was kind of cool because I like bringing real life heat into storylines because it makes it feel more real because it is real.
But even,
so that part I liked, but I don't think they should have shown the actual video. Yeah. I think that was a mistake. I think it blew up in their face. And I'm sorry, guys, but when the Young Bucks come out, the fans immediately started chanting CM Punk, and nobody had chanted his name on AEW television in many months. I don't think this is the kind of reaction AEW was wanting or anticipating.
No, can I just dive in there as well? What you just says to me doesn't, and a little bit doesn't make sense because FTR the previous on Dynamite, what was it after the show and the footage was online, came out and gave the whole speech about how Tony Khan is great and AEW is the best and blah 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 like this. So that whole story doesn't even make sense because that was out there in the public domain that they were like talking about it. And there's an interview from Adam Copeland today, and he was asked about the Ariel Wani thing, and he's like, "Yeah, I never seen it. I've seen clips, you know." And it's like, to me, because I was heavily criticism for the promo he cut, I think the guys just needed a sort of positive message. It's like you can't go out and just give a reaction to something you don't have full context in, but then say in an interview like a week and a half later, yeah. But I've not got time to watch and get involved in all this sort of drama. That, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's like, come on, man, you were out there. You were out there, but was responding to what was sort of said. It's like you can't have it both ways.
He finds it embarrassing for both AEW and Tony Khan. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't think this worked in Tony Khan's favor like he apparently thought it would.
Mm-hmm.
Is this an indication that Tony's very much of the mindset like Vince is? Once he's got something in his mind, no matter what you do and how many people tell him no, you can't talk him out of it.
I kind of think so, because, how many times have we heard, and we have heard this, that there have been people backstage try to give Tony Khan wisdom about things, and Tony Khan's basically like, thank you for that, but I'm going to stick with what I'm doing.
Yeah.
That's been implicated a few times before.
I know, Liam, you're going to bring this up in a wee bit, but even Stephen P. New posted a tweet on Twitter that says, I tried to tell him last night not to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I am kind of wondering what the legal ramifications of this are, if any. I'm curious.
Yeah, obviously get onto that. So fast forward again, obviously to a week later, and of course the video airs. But I want to first thing I want to talk about is this clip right here. Shivani looks absolutely thinking this is making the rounds. Mr. Isaacs, what do we think?
He looks embarrassed as hell. Now let's be honest here. He is like, he's like, what the hell, man? What are we doing here? What is this bullshit? Like, is this 2000 again?
To be fair, I would be embarrassed sitting next to that dipshit Excalibur as well.
I'm sitting next to this goddamn guy with a mask on. What is going on here? I thought this was a wrestling show.
I was arguing with somebody about it because they were going about the terrible things that Vince has done, and and they were talking. What was it? This chap was talking about the whole sort of Eugene gimmick and things like that. And then a couple of weeks later, he's talking. Me. I remember stuff. He's talking about how great Excalibur was. And I'm like, right. Excalibur that went full retards for a whole what was it, 6 months as a wrestler? He was in a wheelchair doing the whole Pimmy thing. No,
yeah.
I'm absolutely sorry. I hate using that word. I shouldn't have used that word.
That's fine.
But what was it called? That's why I'm angry about it, because he gets a pass at that, and then there's people done far less. I know that's not what the topic is.
Well, if you remember, he had that 1 month suspension because some promo where he was cutting a heel promo and made a racial comment.
Yeah.
So he went away from AEW just quietly for a month and then came back.
Yeah.
So I'll stick with obviously the Shivani thing now. On his recent podcast, I can't remember exactly what the name is, with Conrad, he was asked about the CM Punk thing, and he gave a slight little answer. I've got a little clip here. Have a listen.
No idea. I have no idea what he said, with the exception of someone told me, oh, he brought up your name, and here's what he said. And I went, no. So what? Right? So fucking what?
No, he wasn't critical of you at all.
No, I know. And that's why I'm saying, so what? If he was critical of me, people would say, oh, Shivani on his podcast is going to defend himself. Well, I have nothing to defend.
No, not at all. I mean, unless you're defending AEW. And he was critical of AEW, as you might imagine. And he wasn't even super negative at times about Tony Khan. I mean,
right.
We don't have to relitigate it all. And Punk was even sort of cautious about saying, man, I just really don't want to talk about any of this. I'm not interested in relitigating it. It looks like he's moved on. AEW's moved on.
That's good.
But I know that if I don't mention it to you, then all the comments are going to say, why didn't you mention anything? But I said to myself,
So you mentioned there that everyone's moved on. So the question I've got for you guys is, why are we actually at this point now where we're discussing it?
Yeah, not everyone's moved on. I mean, I think it's pretty clear not everyone's moved on. Like I said, and kind of like what, Conrad did a pretty good job being objective here, in my opinion. It wasn't Punk's idea to talk about this. Ariel Helwani kind of eased it out of him. I think Punk went into this expecting to get asked about it, but I don't think he was intending to say as much as he did. I think it just happened in the moment, and he was just being honest and from the heart. And, I think it was what it was. But I understand Tony Schiavone's in a precarious position here as well. When you work for the company, you are not at liberty to discuss things like this unless it's cleared by the company. Mm-hmm. So, I don't imagine there's going to be a lot of people in AEW that are going to say much about it in interviews, hence why I don't think Shivani said anything about it. I think you could tell by the tone of his voice he was a little annoyed by it.
Yeah.
But he's just, look, man, I can't talk about it. I'm a company guy. I don't want to get myself in any hot water over this, so let's just move on.
Yeah. First off, I just want to give a shout out to the biggest podcasting hosting slime ball there is in the world, and that's Conrad Thompson. That guy is the biggest slime ball. He's sitting on both sides of the fence, sitting around. I know that's what he's there to do, but I can't stand that man.
But hey, here's one thing about Conrad though that I can admire, Haney. At least he presents the other side. Like he doesn't just say, Eric, you're totally right about everything. Tony Schiavone, you're right about everything. Fuck that punk, at least he's kind of objective and kind of at least plays devil's advocate with his host.
Yeah, I get that. I just don't like that. Pick a side, man. Stop. What was it? Stirring the pot. God's sake.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move along, shall we?
But anyways, what was it? With regard to, I mean, Shivani's right. I mean, let it go. But I think there's more to it that people don't actually look into. So just before, as part of the whole sort of WrestleMania week, that you've got the guys with WrestleNomics, and they're putting out numbers and blah de blah. Like WWE's doing this and WWE's doing that. And one of the numbers they put out since CM Punk came back at the end of November, he has sold over $1 million worth of merchandise. Right? Yeah. So, Tony Khan's probably sitting in his office and he's hearing that data point. He's going, arsehole. Because he did that, right? So, but I think this is Tony's probably not as hurt about the comment. He's probably hurt about the money that he realizes he's losing out on. And let's not forget as well, Warner Brothers, the deal's up for renewal this year, and I'm sure, even though he didn't have him signed, I'm sure there was we're getting Punk. That was a big sort of factor in that.
I'm sure it was. Yeah.
There's nobody big coming in new for the new deal, and there's a lot of pressure on Tony because he's probably thinking, shit, I've got all these guys that I need to pay, so there's real business stuff going on in the background that we don't understand as wrestling fans. We just look at the sort of drama that's going on. What was it? And there's probably a lot of things that's driving that mindset. I get where Shivani's coming from. He's got his meal ticket again. What was it? And he doesn't want to rumble that. So, what was it called? It's easy to say. Easy to say, just like what was it? Forget it and move on. I mean, how many times have you been out with friends and there's been a little barney within amongst them, and then what was it? A little scuffle, and then an hour later they're in the pub drinking a pint. What was it? That's what really should have happened. They should have, but both sides have sort of antagonized it and what was it? Exacerbated it. Punk talked about not being picked up at the airport and things like that. What was it? And then the guy, obviously, Ariel Helwani asked about, what was it? How does people feel about that? And then Punk says, well, I don't want people to, like, nobody was shouting about it. I was fine with it. I had fun going on the subway. It was just, what was it? Fans that started taking pictures and the story sort of got out. Little misunderstandings and all that have driven a lot of things here. But let's not forget, there's a lot of money at stake. Punk collaborated to making televisions hundreds of thousands of pounds a minute. Wrestling business is expensive, So there's probably, it hurts a lot more than people probably realise, Yes.
Right then. So obviously now after this, obviously the video airs. Now, I didn't watch this live because obviously work commitments and stuff like that. So when I obviously walk up, first thing I do will go on social media, as you do, flicking through, because I got a chance to see a lot of people's reactions immediately. And I'm watching the video going, well, is that it? You know what I mean? Is that it? You know what I mean? Anything else? But Mr. Alex, I presume you watched the show live.
I did. I watched it live, and I was on pins and needles to see this video. I was curious to see what they were actually going to show, and if they were going to show the whole thing, or if it was going to be some bullshit. And it was going to be a swerve. Like, I didn't know, but they showed the actual legitimate video. Of course, they did not mention CM Punk by name. And I was underwhelmed by it too, man. Yeah. I'm like, God, people are acting like this is the biggest deal in the world, and like somebody tried to kill somebody. Like, this was nothing. Like, this was absolutely nothing. Like, we've heard stories. And look, before I say this, let me preface this by saying I know this is 2024. This is a different time. This is a different era. This is the era of human resources. I work in human resources. I understand that. But we have heard so many stories about Brett and Shawn having a brawl in the bathroom stall, and Goldberg and Jericho getting into a fight. I mean, this was just like a little more than a decade ago. This was just nothing. This was a verbal argument and a shove and an attempt, at least an attempt of a guillotine choke before they were immediately separated. And I just don't think this was that big of a deal. There was no blood. There were no injuries. I just, for the life of me, I don't understand why we couldn't have just sat everybody down after this and been like, look, let's cut the shit. Let's get it all out in the open here. Jack Perry, you are not to go out and break kayfabe and make mention of fake or real glass. CM Punk, you are not to go backstage and put your hands on somebody. The shit stops now. This is the final warning. Let's get together. Let's shake hands. Let's make money. That's what should have happened here.
I've had similar conversations when I was younger when my sister gave me a kicking.
I mean, this is just ridiculous. These guys are making millions of dollars. This isn't like two guys in a stock crew at a supermarket getting in a fight in the warehouse. Like these are guys making big money. And when you make big money, you need to be professional enough to set bullshit aside and come together to continue to generate bigger money. Like, I don't understand why people aren't seeing the big picture here and why the ball was dropped on this.
See, if you watch the video again, if you look down at the bottom of the video, there's three people with their faces obscured, and it's obviously somebody taking them through and showing them, like, guiding them. That could have been a sponsor or a business partner coming through, you know, and then they walked straight into that, you know. So I get from the other side of things how sort of bad it can look.
Sure,
you know?
Yeah.
But that footage didn't need to be shown publicly because what was it? I'm trying to be sort of bad. I'm trying to understand where, like, Tony's coming from it, you know. Just if I mean, I don't know how you feel, but was it coming from that HR background? If you outline and you take everything Punk said about all the digs he's had backstage and all the stuff that happened online and on Dynamite, what was it? Looking at British law, you know, there's a case for constructive dismissal there. You know, it's almost like they went out their way to what was it, antagonize him more and more and more. You know, what was it? Like, did what was it? I mean, was Jack Perry so good? Did he run it by sort of the MVPs and says, yeah, you can say that. We'll back you up if you get any bother with it, you know. So what was it? There is a case there for constructive dismissal for Punk if everything that he says is true. Now the only reason I would what was it? You know my opinion on Punk. I was very vocal about him coming into EW. I thought he was going to be an absolute troublemaker. What was it?
I mean, there's no doubt. Look, I don't mean to whitewash this when it comes to Punk. He's clearly a difficult person to deal with, and he clearly shouldn't have put his hands on Perry.
No, you can't condone that, you know. But verbally, just as bad as physical, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know what was said in that video, and there's some snippets would have snipped it, the clip. But the whole clip itself is about 40 seconds long, and they're clearly having a heated conversation. But a lot of the clip that you see online and Twitter is like the last sort of 10 seconds of it, where he just what was it? Perry's just putting his hand through his hair, and all of a sudden Punk lunges. Even that is presented in a different context. So
it's very difficult to understand the full context with no audio and seeing it at such a far distance.
Yeah,
and I know, and with all respect to everybody who said this, there's been some colleagues of ours on here that have said this, that there's absolutely no justification to put your hands on somebody. But when you're in the heat of the moment and people say things to your face that are very triggering to you and very personal, it's very easy to look back at this and say, hey, you shouldn't do that. But I don't know how you guys are, but to me, there are things that if you got in my face and said it to me, I'll probably put hands on you. I'm just being honest.
Perfect example of that. I don't know if you know this person, Liam. You will know this person, Zinedine Zidane, right? One of the greatest footballers of all time. He's about to retire. He's at the last World Cup. What was it?
The famous header.
Somebody says something about his sister, and he sticks the head in them, and that's what he's remembered for. Forget all the amazing goal that he scored at Hampden and things like that, So it can be, what was it? Something that can really cut, that can make you sort of strike out, And Zinedine says it was about his sister, and what was it? He stuck the head in him. Like a whole career is now down to one moment of just a headbutt.
Absolutely.
And that's on a world platform. That's in front of billions of people. The World Cup was watched by billions of people. So it's hard. Like the moments are hard. Verbally, it's just as bad as physical, in my view. Depending on what's been said.
Hey, can you? Sorry, Mr. Adams, can you show the comment from Sweet Stevie Aaron?
Yeah, good pal Stevie Aaron here. Mr. Isaacs is spot on. I was backstage during a much worse fight between two major ex-WWE guys. It was worked out afterwards. This is what I don't understand. They could have figured it out. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. They could have figured it out. There's just so much money that's been left on the table with this whole thing. I don't get it. Hell, if I made that kind of money, if somebody punched me in the fucking face, I would be like, okay. I'd be pissed about it, but afterwards I'd be like, okay, let's sit down, let's resolve this, and let's make more money from it. It's just stupid. I don't get it.
Now, you mentioned they're obviously making money. Now, in the light of obviously all this video, a lot of people have responded, and I've got the clip from Billy Ray's comments because I feel like he's so on point with this. So have a listen to guys. What you think?
What Tony Khan should have done from Jump Street, what any boss, any owner, any matchmaker, any booker in this scenario from Jump Street, from the very first incident, is you have to get all of the people that don't like each other in a room together and work it out. You don't have to send each other Christmas cards. You don't have to text each other happy birthday. You don't have to be friends. But when you are here, I need you to be professional, and I need you to have respect for one another, and I need you to do good business with one another. But that never happened because the guy that owns the company doesn't know what it's like to run a professional wrestling locker room, because he never sat under the learning tree of a booker or an owner who ran a professional wrestling locker room. Can Tommy Dreamer run a locker room? Yes. Why? He sat under Paul Heyman's learning tree.
Mr. Isaacs, take it away.
I 100% agree with that. I literally agree with everything you said there. He's absolutely right. Tony Khan he hasn't properly learned how to be a booker. He hasn't properly learned how to run the backstage culture of a professional wrestling company, and things like this are going to continue to happen as a result of it. I wholeheartedly agree with it.
Annie?
Yep, can't disagree with that. What was it? It's on point, really, isn't it? What was it? I agree with them 100%. The challenge with wrestling as well is and it's like any place. You're not going to get on with everybody. Everybody, but you need to be professional enough to have their relationships, and that's on all sides. There's no picking a side on this. I know, like on this this chat, I've said like more often than not when Punk said something, it's true. For, which is quite annoying because I think he's quite an aggravating person. But was it at times, and he's probably. I mentioned the whole thing about constructive dismissal. He's probably used the buttons himself in the past, and pushed them. So yeah, there's a sort of lot there. I can't disagree with with that statement at all.
Not at all. So, in the lights of obviously this as well, the one person we've talked about is Jack Perry. Now, Jack Perry's been gone, I think it was 7 months, and Dave Meltzer and Brian, is it Alvarez? I think that's his second name.
Alvarez.
Yep. So these were talking about Jack Perry, and they think this is actually to bring him back. Have a listen, see what you guys think.
Well, regardless of whatever Jack Perry said to CM Punk, that guy's been suspended now for 7 months. Mm-hmm. And when you watch that footage,
well, he's not
like
he's not suspended. He's not suspended.
He's not back.
Well, he's going to be back. He's going to be back imminently.
He was suspended for a long time.
But I mean,
he has not been used in 7 months.
He has not been used in 7 months
as a result of this footage,
which is ridiculous.
It is, and that's part of the thing. It's part of the thing I was asking about. Like, Matt Jackson is doing the promo. He's supposed to be a heel. He's wearing a scapegoat shirt. Mm-hmm. Like, they show the footage, and all you can think as a viewer is, yeah, guy's kind of a scapegoat here. Like, I mean, what did he do? He must have said something, but then the guy went after him.
It was what he did on it was what he did on the air. It's not what he did backstage.
7 months.
Well, he was back in January because he was back in the San Jose show for New Japan, so he wasn't.
Yeah, he was back for New Japan, but he has not been on AEW TV.
No, he's not been on TV.
7 months as a result of this.
He's coming back now. This was the angle to bring him back. So,
what do you think, Mr. Isaacs?
I think Dave's right here. I think this is the angle to bring him back. I think clearly, the Bucks pointing him out, and they gave him a shout out last week on the air as well when they were walking out to the ring. I think this is clearly a mechanism to bring Jack Perry back, and he is going to get massive heat when he comes back, and CM Punk chants are going to be thrown at him, and it's going to be crazy. But I would agree with that. I think he's going to come back soon to AEW.
Any?
I called this 4 weeks ago, so I've said it on the podcasts. So what was it? I felt what I mean by that is the whole Punk thing and the Kada thing. I said the next person to come in there would be Jack Perry. Obviously, I didn't know how they were going to get there, but obviously that's just how we're going to get there. They're going to get there. So yeah, can't disagree.
So we got. You mentioned earlier on about the legislation thing, so I've actually got.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump the gun.
That's fine. Don't worry about it. So this is from Inside the Ropes, and this was sent by a good friend Stevie Aaron. Shout out again. He says many fans have been speculating that AEW is concerned, as in the United Kingdom, where all it was held, and the CCTV footage originates. GDPR legislation in the UK states that personal information should only be accessible to those who need for their job. Therefore, by airing the CCTV footage, making it accessible to the general public, this could be interpreted as a breach of UK law. I didn't even know this, by the way, so this was kind of a bit surprising.
Yeah. So a little bit more than that as well. What was it? So apparently, you can't use CCTV footage for entertainment purposes, particularly when the people involved are what was identifiable by the media or the general public. So, interestingly as well, this was highlighted to Stephen P. New, who is CM Punk's lawyer, and his response, his tweet to that was, "I tried to tell EW this last night," and that was before it aired, but the day before it aired. So, it's possible they're dangling that lawsuit in front of AEW now. Who knows?
Now let me ask you guys this, because you all are going to know way more about this than me. Obviously, I'm an American. I'm not a British common law expert or anything here. Yep. But What is the crux of this argument? Is the footage owned by like the British government or something, so it's heavily regulated and how you could use it? Is that how this is going
It's
down?
nothing to do. It's nothing to do with nothing to do with government. Basically, it was GDPR is a law. It was designed to protect people's identity, or it was so. It's heavily. It's a huge part of employment law now as well.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
basically, even with HR, there's lots of limitations on what you can and can't do with with people data, for instance.
So it's like it's just a privacy law, basically.
Yes, it's basically a
Yeah.
privacy law. Yeah.
Okay.
But CCTV falls into that. What was it? So because I think what was it? I did sort of a I can't even say that GDPR. What was it? A sort of training course a while back, and they used some sort of the scenarios of what was it? Using data for entrapment and things like that. So what was it? It's all about protecting people's personal what was it, information and identity. What was it? Obviously, what was it? If they've got any disabilities and things like that, so that no discrimination can be made. So there's all sorts of information that HR can hold, but they can't disclose. And if it's disclosed, it's illegal. And for some reason, reading into it, this CCTV, I didn't know, fell into this sort of bracket. Sorry, Liam, I didn't mean to jump in. In case you've got more information on that. Sorry.
No, it's fine. Carry on. Continue.
That's good information. Yeah.
So pretty much, it's what was it? It's all about making sure that people's identities are protected in the workplace and what was in the sort of general public as well. Because our cities and that are so heavily monitored now and things like that as well. If stuff makes the news and things like that, there is a sort of same in the UK. If you're on a camera, there is a sort of presumption that you're out in public, therefore you've got no rights, sort of thing. But
yeah. So I've got a bit of a question. Sorry, I've got a bit of a question for that. Does that law still state then if the footage is shown, let's say, in another country, is it still the same law?
Yes. But was it because it's been obtained? What was because what was it? And how that falls in? If you look into it, I think the Inside the Ropes article has a link to some of the law, the breakdown of the law, and it's
that's what I've got in front of me.
Yeah, the internet, it can't even make its way onto the internet, So, what was it? GDPR. What was it? The whole point of GDPR is to protect the law. What was it? Of UK data, even worldwide, and that's where sort of there's other things that tie into that as well. See, like criminal and things like that, protecting identity and things like that.
So that kind of explains like why the people's getting strikes, for like taking down like the replays and stuff. On Twitter.
Yes. Yep. It does.
Yeah, the footage is disappearing everywhere.
Yeah.
So that just kind of makes sense. So, Mr. Isaacs, a few little follow-up questions for this. So, it's one thing to point out that AEW does put on a great product. There's some fantastic wrestlers there. We've said that. We are AEW marks, but behind the scenes, do you think there's a little bit more what people never understand and learn?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that here's my assessment of AEW. I think they have, in general, a really good in-ring product. As far as just the actual nuts and bolts of wrestling, but they need help with booking logic, they need help with storytelling, and they need help with properly setting and dealing with a backstage culture. So here's what I wanted to point out. Let's take, for example, I know we mentioned the WWE earlier, like Nick Khan and Tony Khan running the wrestling. I really think that Tony Khan is too nice to run the backstage. I think he needs like a Dana White kind of figure. Dana White, president of the UFC, when Endeavor bought the UFC, they kept Dana White to run the organization. Yeah. So he doesn't own it, but he runs it. And he is a stand-up, foul-mouthed, alpha male type guy that this shit just doesn't happen backstage at UFC shows. I think Tony Khan, being the nice guy that he is, needs to find somebody like that. He needs to find a bolsterous, loud, aggressive, alpha male or alpha female type. Now, I'm not restricting it to men here when I say that, to come in and run the backstage and run the wrestling portion of this program. He needs his Gorilla Monsoon. Vince always had Gorilla Monsoon as his backstage enforcer. He needs somebody like that for AEW.
I think the issue with that now is he's made a rod for his own back, and you can't just bring somebody in to do that, because you've got certain people there like the Bucks, Jericho, and all that, who have now made their bed, and they're obviously. I mean, let's face it. I mean, I don't mean this disrespectfully to Tony and that he's been taken advantage of, but Chris Jericho, that's just his retirement. He's just his retirement fund right there. He's just playing a game. He's just there for the money. But was it the Bucks as well? They're just there to play. They're not serious about the wrestling thing. But was it just made it easier for what they were able to do. And that's why I'm not a fan of the Bucks. It was because
no way. This is breaking news here. Haney is not a fan of the Young Bucks. Did anybody know this?
I didn't have a clue.
I don't think I've made that. I don't think I've made that public before.
Maybe just a little, yeah.
But I mean, how do you, basically to be able to do that now? You need to be able to. You have to come in and rip that company up from top to bottom. What was it? I think two things are a challenge for AEW. What was it? The first one is the identity of AEW. They're called All Elite Wrestling, yet the Bucks own the trademarks to the Elite. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a brand conflict there straight away. If you change anything, I think you probably would get a bigger audience. What was it? But you would probably lose the audience that you've currently got, because the audience, the hardcore that's there, are there for precisely the way the product is, and they want it to be. They want. What was it? Some of them sit there on a sort of moral soapbox of like AEW or this, and they didn't do this, but WWE do, or that or this. That's the wrong way to sort of look at it. What was it? I think that's the way some of the fans look at AEW. They look at it from that original standpoint, where originally it was about what was it? Equal opportunity, and what was it? Less days, and what was it? Health insurance and all that. But apparently all that's gone. I think Jim Cornette alluded to it. And it's all gone now. It disappeared very quickly. That's not the case. So I think they need to find a new identity, EW, to be able to do that. And to be able to do that, they need to get rid of what they've got.
Mm-hmm.
But in doing that, you risk pissing off everybody that's there and watches the product just now, because that's the product they want, and that's the challenge. You could bring in a Gorilla Monsoon tomorrow. What was it called? But let's face it, that was probably a punk. He came in, he was told he could have ideas and do stuff. He was a bigger star than anybody on that roster.
Absolutely.
And all that roster did was they shut down. And like I said before, there's a case for constructive dismissal. If what Punk said is true and the stories on the internet is true, the only reason I would probably be inclined to believe it is because everything Punk said, not just from this case, but from the past, from the WWE and Colt Cabana and the Doctor and all that, have all been proven true in court. So he's known not to lie. So it's a difficult one. Sorry for that long-winded answer, but I've thought about that a lot. What can AEW do to change it?
No, that's absolutely fine. That's
ironically WWE. I'll finish it by saying, ironically, WWE are nearly in the place where AEW was presenting itself to be in 2019 as a pro wrestling company. They're ditching the ditching the whole sports entertainment stuff, and what was it? it's just weird, to see it that scenario, and that's what made me think about it, because I was actually thinking about this during the week,
Okay, that's fine. So to Mr. Isaacs, one final question, and then also we'll head off. To summarize everything mostly we talked about, any final thoughts and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's just it's unfortunate that this is the reality, because I mean we all, as wrestling fans, we want to see all companies be viable, all companies be successful, and competition's fine. I don't mind if they take a little jabs at each other every now and then. That's competition. Pepsi and Coca-Cola take jabs at each other. Why shouldn't AEW and WWE? I'm good with that. But we got to cut out all this bullshit. Like, you've got to get on the same page and make money for everybody. And I hope that maybe we'll inch towards that. I'm not incredibly optimistic, to be honest with you, but hopefully AEW can kind of get it together and kind of work more towards just profitability and less about bullshit and fantasy booking that only a small group of people really care about. I want to see AEW flourish, and although I don't think they'll ever compete with WWE in popularity and popular culture, I think that ship has sailed. I think they could be a very strong, viable number 2 for many, many years to come. But I am concerned if these things keep happening that they're going to go the Dixie Carter TNA route, where it's just going to kind of take a nosedive, and then somebody else is going to buy them, and then it's just going to be stagnant. And I don't want to see that happen. I think this is the best opportunity we've had since WCW to have a viable, realistic number 2 promotion, and I just don't want to see them blow this.
Can I be devil's advocate a second? What football team do you support, Mr. Isaacs?
I am a Miami Dolphins fan primarily. I'm also a Cincinnati Bengals fan.
So
you forget it's in the US.
So who are your biggest rivals?
The biggest rivals of the Miami Dolphins would be the New England Patriots, which I fucking hate, and the Buffalo Bills.
So let me present this to you from a perspective, and I think that was because I was thinking about this as well in terms of tribalism and things like that, and it's a bigger thing in the. I know you have got franchise sports in Europe. It's a bit different with the way the sports is. If you apply the sort of if EW was the Patriots, right, and the WWE were the Dolphins, right? Yeah. Would you just go, it's just football?
No, I wouldn't. But here's where I think. Well, hold on a second. Here's where I think that assessment's wrong, because I don't think wrestling shows should be looked at in terms of sports teams. I think it should be looked at in terms of television shows. So, you probably hold on. Let me finish.
Yeah,
I don't think that you would be a fan of both the Miami Dolphins and the New England Patriots, but I think you could certainly be a fan of The Walking Dead and Breaking Bad.
But let's rewind it back to 2019 when. When Cody and Chris and the Bucks were standing outside the Jacksonville Stadium and talking about how we are going to be this big bad wrestling company that's going to take on the WWE and beat it, So they never came out the blocks and says they were a TV program. They came out and they came out and said they were the Patriots, right? Yeah, right. And they were going to take on the Miami Dolphins, right? That's my perspective. That was what I was trying to get at. Yeah, sorry, but I get what you're coming from as well.
Yeah,
I agree with what you've said. It's a damn TV show, Just bloody enjoy it,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I think that's where the tribalism comes from. What was it? That sort of rivalry. What was it? Of different brands or different teams, which is not something. I don't mean this in a disrespectful way. That's not something that's really something in the States. It's because all your sports is sort of franchised. So, it's sort of different. But I can tell you, in the UK, what was it, Liam? If you're a Liverpool fan and you end up supporting Man United, you're going to get a kicking, aren't you?
Definitely.
Well, there's an interesting guy. There's a guy on YouTube. I think his name is Snarp. He's like this little dorky blonde kid, and what he does is he just trolls American sports fans. So he'll for example, he'll go to Like, he'll go to like Miami and he'll dress in Patriots gear when they're playing the Patriots. And then he'll stand outside and kind of like heckle the fans of the home team. And like people start threatening him and throwing shit at him, and like it's all just a big gag. It's a joke, and it's hilarious.
I'm just watching the video now. This just looks crazy.
It's absolutely hilarious. He was in Kentucky not too long ago, trolling Kentucky fans. Now I will say, props to my home state here. We were nicer to him than say like New York. But yeah, so let me just say that like sports fans in America do get pretty violent and vicious too. Absolutely.
Of course. I think we need to wind up because we'll be here for another hour. So, guys, that's obviously our show. And now, Mr. Isaacs, if you look at the number, next week is 150 episodes.
150 episodes of this program. Liam, we got to take a bow. We got to take a victory lap. That's something to be proud of, my friend.
It is. And so for next week, we are going to do my mystery highs and lows. And you remember Stevie Aaron, who was in the comments?
Absolutely.
He's going to be on this show next week, hopefully.
Hell yes, man. I look forward to catching up with Mr. Aaron again.
So for some reason, I thought Canada Dry.
Mr. Aaron.
So yeah, next week, obviously, we're doing a mystery highs and lows. This has been chosen. To be fair, I had some ideas, and then Stevie Aaron obviously gave me this idea. So we've got a mystery highs and lows next week. You know the spiel. And in 2 weeks, I'm going to be going and seeing in person. By the way, our very first two people we interviewed. Do you remember those?
That was Sebastian Mercer and Kirsty Love.
That is correct. So on April the 27th, I'm going to be seeing them live in person. So I can't wait for that.
Tell them hello from me.
Awesome.
I'm going to be representing the Magic of Wrestling where they actually are. I'm super excited. But yeah, I mean, 150 episodes next week. Join us. Stevie Aaron will be on this show. Mystery highs and lows. And shall we wind this down?
Let's wind it down, my friend.
Of course. There isn't even there, look.
I look forward to it, my friend.
Of course. So if you guys want to support this show, you can head to ML Wrestling on Instagram, Twitter, or YouTube. Twitter or Instagram or TikTok. You can go see loads of clips there. But if you guys don't want to see our faces, you can go to Spotify, type in the Magic of Wrestling. You can watch episode 149, 148, 147.
Can't blame you guys for that one.
Oh dear. But if you want to guys spotlight, not obviously this show, any of the Dynamite After Dark shows or the All FM Wrestling show, head to fmwrestling.com. Everything's on there, or FM Wrestling on YouTube. I think we're absolutely everywhere, let's be honest.
You can find us pretty much anywhere, dude.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's fair. And if you guys want a t-shirt, you can head to prowrestlingtees.com/FM Wrestling. You can get the Magic of Wrestling t-shirt, the All FM Wrestling t-shirt, which is modeled by friend of the show, Natalia Markova. Mr. Isaacs, tell everybody about the old school.
If you guys like old school wrestling out there, and I know you do, you can go to prowrestlingtees.com/Adrian Adonis. Get your adorable Adrian Adonis t-shirt, who has been on the Vice documentary series Dark Side of the Ring. Get you a shirt today. Support the cause.
There you go. And it's always been a pleasure. I mean, I'm actually super glad because I know you're very vocal, with some stuff like this.
So sorry for rambling on as usual. What was that? I sort of just came on and I just sort of but was it just stayed? So I do apologize.
Haney, we appreciate your passion and enthusiasm.
Yeah, thank you.
Not at all. So one final thing, guys. Mr. Isaacs, see us out to the outro.
All right, guys, look. It's springtime. We're inching closer to the summer. And I know everybody's got a lot of hard things going on in their life, whether it's physical ailments or economic woes or family issues or whatever you've got going on, issues with your job, whatever. Here's what I want each of you to do. I want you to look yourself in the mirror and I want you to tell yourself that you can do it. You are strong enough. You're powerful enough. You're smart enough to overcome any challenge that you've got going on in your life right now. So This is what we got to do. We believe in you. I believe in you. Liam believes in you. Haney does. Everybody involved in this community believes in each other. We're supportive. We're here for you guys. We love you guys. Put your fists in the air. Just keep fighting.